Fusion, fusion, fusion.
Everyone shows a quick trick or a cool node setup, but almost nobody teaches Fusion in a way that truly clicks. I've watched hundreds of videos on motion graphics, demos, random transitions, and flashy composites, and instead of clarity, most leave beginners even more confused. That's why so many editors jump back and forth between After Effects and Resolve. They never get the real foundation. So I decided to make the video I wish existed when I started. Not Hollywood-level VFX, not overly advanced theory, just the real, practical Fusion skills that matter. Clean 3D basics. Motion graphics you'll use every day. Simple animations like arrows, callouts, text movement, and most importantly, the essential node workflow that makes all of it make sense. This course also breaks down the entire Fusion panel layout, step by step, so you're never scared of the interface again. By the end, Fusion won't feel confusing. It'll feel like a tool you can control, one that opens up a new level of creativity and lets your edits stand out instantly. Let's get started. Before we start building anything, let's quickly understand the Fusion panel, because once this layout makes sense, everything else becomes easier. At the very top, this is where your workflow tools live. On the left, you'll find Media Pool and Effects, where all your assets and tools come from. On the right side, you'll see Spline and Keyframes, which are essential for animation. The spline helps you smooth motion, and keyframes let you control timing. Right next to that is the Inspector, where you adjust and fine-tune every effect, shape, and animation. In the center, we have the two viewer panels. The left viewer is your preview. It shows individual nodes so you can see what each step is doing. The right viewer is your final output, exactly what will render in the end. Pressing 1 or 2 on any node decides where it appears. At the bottom, this is the heart of Fusion the Node graph. This is where everything happens. Every image, shape, effect, and animation flows from left to right through nodes until it reaches MediaOut. Instead of stacking layers, you're building a visual pipeline. And once you understand this, Fusion becomes fast, flexible, and powerful. We'll start by understanding the Fusion panel, how it works, how to think inside it, and how nodes actually connect together. I'll walk you through the core node structure, then we'll build simple shape animations using basic effects from the Fusion panel. Let's get started. Let's take the Merge node as an example, and build a scene from there. Every node in Fusion has connection points, and each one plays a different role. The yellow input represents the background. This is where your base layer connects. The green input is the foreground. Anything you want to appear on top goes here. The blue input is the mask. Whenever you want to control visibility or shape, you connect a masking node here. And finally, the output flows forward to MediaOut, which renders the final image. If this feels overwhelming right now, don't worry. Instead of overthinking it, let's create our first animation so you can see what's happening. In this section, we'll create a simple motion graphic from scratch using a clean node structure. I'll explain everything as we go. To start, add a Fusion composition from the Effects panel and place it on the timeline. Click it and open the Fusion panel. You'll notice Fusion automatically creates a MediaOut node. This is essential because without it, nothing renders. To build a basic motion graphic, we begin with a background node. Grab it from the toolbar and connect its output to the yellow input of MediaOut. Remember, yellow always connects to the background. You'll also notice small indicators on each node. These are viewer controls. Press 1 on a selected node to view it in the left viewer, and 2 to view it in the right viewer. This helps you see both the process and the final output. Now let's add a merge node and place it between the background and MediaOut. Add a second background node and connect it to the green input of the merge. This is our foreground. At first, nothing changes, but once you change the color of this foreground-background, everything starts to make sense. With just a merge node, you can move, scale, and position elements freely. Next, we'll turn this shape into a circle. Add an ellipse node and connect it to the blue input of the foreground-background. Instantly, you've created a circular shape. Adjust the size and position, make it a bit smaller, move it to the left, and for this version, increase the soft edge all the way to give it a glowing look. Now we work smarter, not harder. Duplicate this node chain. This time, turn the soft edge down to 0. To add contrast, insert an edge detect node and tweak the sliders until it pops visually. Duplicate the chain again, remove the edge detect, and create a stroke instead. In the inspector, uncheck solid, increase the border width, and change the color. I'll switch this one to a gradient for more visual interest. Next, you'll see an arrow animation appear with the text. This is simple. Add another merge node, then a background node. Mask it into an arrow shape, change the color, and set the merge mode to screen. Now, let's animate. Press Shift plus Spacebar, add a transform node, and move to the inspector. First, adjust the pivot point to the center of the circle. When you rotate the angle slider, you can visually see what's happening. This is the value we'll animate. I quickly keyframe it from frame 0 to frame 40, then smooth the motion using the spline panel. To keep the stroke moving with the circle, simply copy the transform values and paste them into the stroke's transform node. Now, both elements move together. To place the arrow behind the stroke, grab the stroke nodes and move them below the arrow in the node chain. Order matters. Now we add text. Insert a text plus node, type your text, and style it however you like. To match the motion, copy the same transform values and paste them into the text chain. At this point, the base animation is complete. To push it further, I duplicate the text, add a second spin animation using the transform tool, and animate the blend value to give it more energy. Then I add a subtle fire overlay behind the background, adjust it to feel polished, and finish everything off with a texture overlay. With a few final tweaks, the animation is done. This is how Fusion works. Not complicated, just structured. Once you understand nodes, everything becomes modular, repeatable, and fast. And this foundation is what allows you to build much more advanced motion graphics later on. Before we move forward, take a moment to appreciate how far you've come. You now know how to navigate the Fusion panel, understand how nodes work, and you've already created your first animations using simple node structures. Now, let's push a little further and strengthen that foundation with slightly more advanced techniques. Let's get started. In this section, we're going to slow things down and really understand why animations work the way they do. Together, we'll break down two powerful animations, a pop text animation and an over-the-page animation. You've seen this over-the-page effect everywhere, especially in high-quality talking head videos, but it's rarely taught properly inside DaVinci Resolve. Today, we're fixing that. Let's get started. Start by creating a Fusion composition and jump into the Fusion panel. Think of this space as your creative garage. This is where experimentation and learning happen. Add a background node and connect it to MediaOut. Select the background node and open the inspector. This is where real learning happens. I encourage you to play with every slider you touch. When you explore like this, you stop memorizing and start understanding how each node behaves. For now, lower the alpha value to make the background transparent. Then add another background node and connect it after the first one. Fusion automatically creates a merge node, and that's exactly what we want. I'll quickly change the color so it's easier to see. Now let's create the animated line. Add a polygon node. In the inspector, disable the automatic animation. We want full control. Select the pen tool and draw a line that starts off frame. This is important because we're creating an over-the-page animation. Adjust the border width until it feels right. To animate the line, we'll use only two values, length and center position. At frame 0, set the length to 0 and add keyframes for both length and center. Move to frame 30, increase the length, and adjust the center to define the first destination. Move forward about 10 frames and add another keyframe without changing anything. This creates a pause. Then repeat the process until the line finishes its path. Once the animation is set, open the spline panel. This is where we smooth everything out. Don't worry about mastering curves yet, just shape them until the motion feels natural. At this point, the line is moving, but the background isn't following it. To fix this, add a transform node after the background and copy the animation values from the polygon. Paste them into the transform. Now the background moves with the line. If you notice edges appearing, select the merge node and change the canvas method to mirror. This instantly fixes it. Finally, add a text plus node and connect it before the transform so it moves with the animation. Adjust the size, position, and opacity. And just like that, you've created a clean, professional, over-the-page animation using simple core concepts. Now let's create a modern spinning 3D text animation from scratch, so you understand how text behaves in Fusion. Add a text 3D node and a render 3D node, then connect them to MediaOut. Select the text 3D node and explore the inspector again. Play with the sliders so you understand what each one does. For this effect, type your text and increase the extrusion depth to around 0.3. Next, go to the Shading tab and uncheck Use Material Object. This lets us separate the look of the text from the background and really sell the effect. Choose a color that fits your style. Now go to the Text tab, right-click in the typing area, and add a follower modifier. Open the modifier panel, go to the Timing tab, and set the delay to around 0.7. This creates the staggered spinning effect. In the Transform tab, animate the rotation. Start with 0 degrees at frame 0, rotate to 360 degrees at frame 30, then 720 degrees by frame 80. Open the Spline panel and smooth the motion until it feels polished. To change the text during the spin, add keyframes in the text field. Just before the text becomes fully visible, change the wording. Repeat this on the next rotation. This creates a clean, professional text swap that feels intentional. Add a background, adjust the spacing, fine-tune the motion, and there you have it. A modern 3D text animation built entirely inside Fusion. By now, you should feel much more comfortable inside the Fusion panel. This is where you start to flow, where nodes stop feeling technical and start feeling creative. But to truly level up your Fusion skills, there's one final piece we can't ignore: 3D work inside Fusion. And that's exactly where we're headed next. 3D in Fusion is something I didn't fully realize was this powerful until not that long ago, and honestly, I was surprised by how easy and intuitive it actually is. If you paid attention to the last part of the video, you already saw how much production value 3D can add, and why it makes client projects instantly feel higher budget. Now I'm going to walk you through 3D animation in Fusion, the practical way, the kind that helps you create professional-looking visuals without overcomplicating the process. Together, we'll build 3 simple 3D animation examples, and by the end, you'll feel comfortable stepping into a world of endless creative possibilities. Let's get started. To make anything possible in 3D, you first need a node structure that actually works for a 3D environment. In Fusion, everything in 3D starts with a few essential building blocks. The first one is the 3D renderer. This is what converts your 3D scene into something you can actually see, and you'll find it as the final node on the right side. You can also press Shift plus space and type 3D to add it manually. Next, you'll add a Merge 3D node. This is where all your 3D elements come together: models, text, lights, and anything else you build inside the scene. And finally, you'll add a Camera 3D node. This is what gives your scene life. With the Camera 3D, you can create smooth, cinematic camera movement and make your shot feel immersive, just like the example you just saw. These 3 nodes are the foundation of every 3D setup in Fusion. Before we move forward, pause for a moment and lock this structure into memory, because once you understand this setup, everything else in 3D starts to make sense. Navigation in 3D is something you absolutely need to understand before you build anything, and once it clicks, everything becomes easier. Here's the quick and simple way to think about it. Press and hold Shift plus right-click to rotate around your 3D scene and view it from any direction. press and hold the middle mouse button to move around the scene freely. And to zoom in or out, hold Command and scroll forward or backward with your mouse wheel. That's it. These three controls are the foundation of navigating in 3D. Take a second to get comfortable with them, move around the scene, and build that muscle memory. Now that you understand the basics of 3D navigation, let's create our first 3D animation. To create this sleek, modern 3D effect, the first thing we need to do is build the environment. Remember the core 3D node structure I talked about earlier? Render 3D, Merge 3D, and Camera 3D, all connected and flowing into MediaOut. This setup is the foundation of everything we do in 3D, so always start here. Now I'm going to show you how to turn any 2D shape into a 3D object. Start by adding an ellipse and a background node and connect them together. Select the ellipse, press 1 to view it, then select the background and press 2 so we can compare them side by side. For a clean, modern look, change the background type to gradient and choose a sleek color combination. Adjust the gradient until it feels right to you. To convert this 2D shape into 3D, press Shift plus spacebar, type Image Plane 3D, and place it after the background. Then connect that image plane into the Merge 3D. If you don't see anything yet, don't worry. Select the Camera 3D, press 1 to load it into the viewer, and adjust the Z value under Translation. As soon as you move it forward or backward, your object will appear in the scene. Now, let's pause for a moment, because this part is extremely important. In 3D space, translation and rotation are the two controls you'll use the most. Translation lets you move an object horizontally, vertically, or in depth, which you can think of as zooming in and out of the scene. Rotation works the same way, but across all three dimensions. Watch what happens as I move these sliders so you can visually understand how they affect the object. If this doesn't fully click yet, don't worry, it will. By the end of this section, it'll feel natural. For now, press Shift plus spacebar, add a Transform 3D node, and place it after the image plane 3D. This is where we'll animate the object. Turn on keyframing, and if you want to match my version exactly, animate these values. To push the depth even further, add a duplicate 3D node and increase the copies to around 40. Then slightly adjust the Z offset. This creates real depth and makes the animation feel more dimensional. To clean up the edges, add an Erode dilate node after the background and increase the value just a bit. This helps everything feel tighter and more cohesive. At this point, your animation should look like this. Now let's take this a step further and create the DaVinci Resolve icon in 3D, along with a masking reveal effect. I'll move through this part a bit faster, but the process is exactly the same as what you just learned. To create the reveal, add a rectangle mask and connect it to the image node, then animate it to reveal the logo. And just like that, you've completed your very first 3D project in Fusion. You didn't just create an animation, you learned how to turn any 2D image into a 3D environment. This is the foundation. Now let's move on to the second project and strengthen these 3D basics even more. In this version, we're going to create a 3D map animation using very simple and practical techniques. You've probably seen this effect in almost every documentary or travel video, and the good news is, building it inside DaVinci Resolve is much easier than it looks. So let's get it done. Start by dragging a Fusion composition from the effects panel and adjust its length based on how long you want the animation to be. Then jump into the Fusion panel, and remember the core rule for working in 3D. Always start by building your 3D node structure. Now bring in your map PNG, place it into the node graph, and connect it to an image plane 3D. From there, Connect the image plane 3D into a merge 3D and adjust the Z value under translation so the map becomes visible in the scene. At the start of the animation, you'll notice a page rolling effect, and that's the first thing we're going to tackle. Press Shift plus Spacebar, add a Transform 3D, then a Bender 3D, and then another Transform 3D. Connect these nodes in a chain and place them right after the image plane 3D. Press 1 on the final node so we can clearly see what's happening to the image. Select the first Transform 3D, go to Rotation, and set the Z-axis to -44.5. Then select the second Transform 3D and set the Z-axis to 44.5. At this point, the image may look unchanged, and that's intentional. Stick with me, because this setup is the key to making the bend work correctly. Now select the Bender 3D node. In the inspector, change the bender type to bend, increase the amount, set the axis to X, the angle to 90, and the center to 1. As you drag the range slider, you'll see the map start to roll like a sheet of paper. This is the value we're going to animate. Set keyframes from the first frame to around frame 60, adjusting the range value until the motion feels natural. When you're done, your animation should look like this. The reason we used 2 Transform 3D nodes becomes clear if you turn them off. Without them, the bend happens from the wrong angle, and the effect breaks based on where the camera is positioned. This setup lets the animation bend correctly from the viewer's perspective. Next, let's create the 3D camera animation. Start by setting your camera keyframes, then adjust the values based on how you want the movement to feel. This part is creative, so take your time. If you want to match my exact version, these are the keyframe values I'm using from frame 50 to 140. To smooth everything out, select the camera 3D, open the spline panel, adjust the view, select all keyframes, and press S to apply smooth easing. A quick tip: if you want to adjust multiple keyframes at once, select them and press T on your keyboard. This opens the ease in and ease out controls, letting you fine-tune the motion easily. For the final part, we'll create the effect where elements rise out of the map. I'm using a separate PNG for this. Bring it in and connect it right after the map image. Fusion automatically creates a merge node for you, which saves a lot of setup. If the PNG doesn't sit correctly, select the merge node and adjust the sliders until it's positioned perfectly. Now animate the merge values so the element looks like it's emerging from the map. Once that feels right, press Shift plus Spacebar and add a drop shadow. Then add a Gaussian blur. Connect the Gaussian blur to the media in chain and animate it slightly to really sell the depth. Finally, add the drop shadow to media in 2, so the effect only applies to the PNG and not the entire image. Adjust the sliders, fine-tune the look, and there you have it, your final 3D map animation. If you've followed everything correctly, give yourself a real moment of appreciation. By now, you're building muscle memory in the world of 3D, and that's the most important part. Understanding comes from repetition, and this is exactly how 3D starts to feel natural. In this final version, I want to walk you through the last 3D animation in a way that helps you feel comfortable creating something on your own. Let's break it down. At the start of the edit, you saw this sleek 3D text animation. Here's how it was built. I begin by setting up my 3D environment just like before. Then I bring in the PNG image and connect it through an image plane 3D to place it into the 3D world. For the highlight text effect, I create a background node and use a rectangle as a mask. I choose the color based on the look I want, then animate it using keyframes to create that clean highlight movement. Once I'm happy with it, I adjust the image plane 3D positioning until everything feels balanced in the scene. You probably noticed there's a lot of text in this animation. To keep things efficient, I simply duplicate the entire node setup, replace the media in with a new image, and make small adjustments to the highlight animation and image plane 3D. I repeat this process around 5 times until the layout feels right. For the final step, I animate the camera 3D. I set keyframes and fine-tune the movement until the motion feels smooth and intentional. This is where everything comes together. You might also notice the background isn't empty. To create that depth, I add a shape 3D, connect it to the merge 3D, place a background image onto it, and adjust its position in the 3D space. And just like that, the entire scene feels complete. This is your final result, a clean, high-quality 3D animation built from simple techniques. And now, you have the foundation to create your own. And that's it for today. You learned how to navigate the Fusion panel with confidence, how the node system actually works, and how to build clean animations from scratch. We moved from basic 2D motion graphics into advanced over-the-page and pop text animations, and finally into full 3D work inside Fusion, including cameras, depth, and proper 3D structure. Thank you so much for the love and support on the channel. We've got a lot more to learn together, and this is just the beginning. I'll see you in the next one.